What's up, Dragon Slayers? So today's video is about the stress hormones epinephrine and cortisol and how they cause insulin resistance. The stress response involves an interesting mix of neutral and endocrine hormones. So we'll look at two in particular, epinephrine and cortisol, both of which come from the adrenal glands. In the earliest stages of stress, epinephrine increases heart rate and blood pressure, but too much epinephrine for too long is capable of causing insulin resistance. In one study from Yale University, healthy men underwent several assessments to measure insulin sensitivity, with or without an infusion of epinephrine. After just 2 hours of epinephrine infusion, insulin sensitivity dropped by over 40%. While stress causes multiple hormones to be released into the blood, cortisol is considered the prototypical stress hormone and may be the consequence of long term stress that are a result of its actions in the body. Cortisol wants us to have enough energy to get us through whatever we perceive to be the stressful situation. To get us that energy, cortisol is determined to raise our blood glucose. And so the hormone will tell the liver to make glucose out of anything it can, including amino acids from muscle protein and glycerol from fats. While cortisol is trying to increase blood glucose, insulin is trying to reduce blood glucose. These two hormones are counter-regulatory. They act against each other. But in this fight, cortisol wins. Cortisol makes the body remarkably insulin resistant, which is associated with a steady increase in blood insulin over time. One of the more dramatic examples of this scenario is Cushing syndrome, a family of disorders that results from the adrenal glands producing too much cortisol. As you would expect, individuals who develop Cushing syndrome, whether as a result of hormone issue or another abnormality, go from being perfectly insulin sensitive to highly insulin resistant after the cortisol starts to climb. We generally store fat in two areas on our body: beneath our skin, which is called subcutaneous fat, and around our internal organs, called visceral fat. Cortisol is known to cause insulin resistance directly, but it also selectively drives visceral fat to grow more than subcutaneous fat, creating an unhealthy metabolic state. The two main stress hormones causing insulin resistance makes a certain sense. Imagine if you were forced to flee a dangerous situation. You would benefit from the effects of cortisol and epinephrine, which would instantly cooperate to increase blood glucose and fats, feeding your muscles a steadily ready to use fuel to help you escape the situation. If insulin were high in that condition, then that glucose would be pushed into tissues that don't need it, particularly fat tissues. But by making the body insulin resistant, these stress hormones ensure that the tissues that need the fuel, such as the muscles, can get it, which it does through an insulin independent mechanism while contracting. Unfortunately, the effects of cortisol are the same regardless of the situation we perceive as stressful. Whether it's something urgent as running away from a predator, or as seemingly benign as arguing with a loved one or even staying up late to study. Thus, while a stress response in a genuinely dangerous situation serves a purpose to fuel the body's actions, in these instances of modern stress, the metabolic consequences of a stress response simply make things worse. All of this available fat and glucose with nowhere to go. But a hormone doesn't have to be related to stress for it to fight insulin's actions. In fact, sometimes a hormone helps insulin works better. A hormone insulin activity actually wants to dance with. So that's what I've got for you guys today. Don't forget to like and subscribe because it really helps the channel out. And remember, guys, that together, you and I will slay the dreaded diabetes dragon.